Hi everyone, I'm Daniela and I love autumnal flavors. So today I'm going to show you how to make this Italian pumpkin soup, Crema di Zucca. Let's get into it.
I've given my butternut squash a wash and now we're going to cut it in half. Butternut squash can be difficult to cut into, so if you're a little bit nervous, cut the bell end off first. This will at least give you a flat surface to have the butternut squash sitting on. You want to be very careful doing this and use a very sharp knife. With a large spoon, scoop out the seeds from the bottom bell part of your squash. This would be the same process if you're using any other type of pumpkin.
You can use any type of edible pumpkin or autumn squash that you want. I'm using butternut squash because I love the creamy texture and flavor. But if you can find it, I would recommend using a delicata squash, which is more traditionally what they would use in Italy. Make sure you're not using the pumpkins from your jack-o'-lanterns. You'll lose the flavor, it will be watery. It's not what you're looking for in this soup.
Season your squash with some salt. I'm popping this into a plain roasting pan. I like that it has higher sides because it tends to hold in the heat a little bit more. Give it a good drizzle of olive oil. And then press your squash into the roasting pan, cut side down. With a knife, pierce through the skin of your squash. This will help the steam from underneath to rise through and cook evenly.
Preheat your oven to 200 degrees Celsius or 400 degrees Fahrenheit.
While we have the oven on, it's a great idea to get some flavor on our onion as well. I'm using one large white onion and just slicing it in half and peeling the skin back. You don't want to cut your onion too finely because it will burn as the squash roasts. So make sure you have quite large hearty pieces of onion. Pop that into the oven.
You'll want to roast your squash for about 30 to 45 minutes or until a knife slides in really easily.
While our oven is on, it's a great time to roast up some croutons for our soup. I'm using a small ciabatta loaf, but any leftover stale bread that you have will work brilliantly for this purpose. Cut your loaf into cubes as big or as small as you'd like. Pop your cubes of bread onto a baking tray. Give them a drizzle with some olive oil, making sure there's a little bit on each piece. And then make sure to give them a healthy sprinkling of salt. If your bread doesn't already have a really strong flavor, you could also add some herbs or some garlic to this as well. And into the oven. These will only take about 10 to 15 minutes. Peel one large potato, about 200 grams worth. Chop your potato into 1-inch cubes. And drop them into your pot. Add about 2 liters of water to the pot to cover the potatoes. We can always add more water later to thin out our soup. Now that they're soft enough, let the squash and the onion cool in the pan slightly so that we don't burn ourselves when we're trying to pull out the flesh.
If you don't want to go to the extra effort of roasting your squash, you can just peel it and chop it into cubes and boil it with the potatoes. Alternatively, you could use 2 to 3 cans of pumpkin and add it in once the potatoes have been cooked.
It's time to turn on your pot of water with the potatoes to high heat. To help the blending process a little bit, I'm going to chop up the roasted onions so that they're a little bit smaller. Once the potatoes are mostly cooked through, add the onions to the water. Then with a large spoon, start to scoop the flesh from your squash and add it to the pot. Let that all boil together for a few minutes and just check that your potatoes are very soft. So pull out a few pieces with a spoon and just press a knife against them to make sure they're tender and fall apart. Add in a 1/4 teaspoon of cinnamon and a 1/4 teaspoon of nutmeg. Add as much or as little seasoning as you prefer. Give that a stir and we're going to blend it up.
I'm using an immersion blender to make my soup nice and creamy, but you could mash this by hand and have something a little bit more chunky. If you want to do this in a standard blender, make sure you've pulled the top piece out of the lid and covered it with a cloth so that it has room for the heat to escape. And don't fill your blender all the way.
At this stage, give your soup a taste and season accordingly with salt and pepper. This soup can also make a great sauce for pasta.
If you want your soup to be really thick, add a little bit less water at the beginning. You can always thin it out towards the end to get the thickness you desire. This soup is perfect for freezing. I like to pop mine in little soup cubes or a Ziploc bag into the freezer, and then I've got a perfect lunch or dinner whenever I want it. If you're a super fan of soup, you have to try my hearty pasta fagioli. Make sure to subscribe because I come out with a new video every week. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you next time.